You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact that you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Bar and restaurant owners, fans are already choosing where to watch on Sundays. Make sure it's your place. NFL Sunday Ticket gives you every live out-of-market Sunday afternoon game and is only available for your business through EverPass. More games, more reasons to choose your bar, more reasons to come back every week. Be the place fans choose. Only on EverPass.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Watch Remarkably Bright Creatures with your remarkable moms this Mother's Day weekend, only on Netflix May 8th.
Cassian and Nesta travel to the Spring Court to deliver news to Eris about his fallen soldiers. Tamlin discovers them during their tense exchange, and Nesta unleashes her anger at all he had done to her family. Back at the House of Wind, Nesta begins to feel something like home until she learns that the Inner Circle debated whether to inform her of the made weapons she'd forged, sending her spiraling down the 10,000 steps and back into Velaris in a fury. Nesta confronts Amren in a brutal, honest fight, and when Feyre tries to intervene, Nesta releases her rage at Feyre, telling her of the truth about her pregnancy. Rhys, incensed, orders Nesta removed from Velaris. Cassian takes her deep into the mountains, where the wilderness and terrain strip away every defense she has left. On the shores of a mountain lake, Nesta finally breaks, confronts her guilt over Feyre, Elaine, her father, and herself, while Cassian braves the storm.
Hey there, we're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy, and we bring the tools of literary analysis to the women-written novels lighting up book talk, from romance to romantasy. Think of it as your favorite fandom books, treated with the same respect you'd give a classic in a literature class, just with more humor and less homework for you.
Each season, we deep dive into one book, breaking down themes, imagery, and character motivations. Together, we combine our 13 years of literary academic training with our fandom love to help you see your favorite books in a whole new way. We also analyze the story through two different literary lenses, giving you more than one way to look at the text.
This week, we're discussing Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Silver Flames, the most divisive book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. In this episode, we cover chapters 43 through 50.
For a complete list of episodes and chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk.
Before we dive in, let's talk about Spelt. Spoilers, perspective and interpretation, language, and themes.
Spoilers, this episode covers A Court of Silver Flames with full context from the preceding books in the ACOTAR series. That's Thorns and Roses, Mist and Fury, Wings of Ruin, Frost and Starlight. If you haven't read those, this is your only spoiler warning. Anything in SJM's other series will be saved for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks episode that airs this Wednesday.
Perspective and interpretation. These are just our takes, our personal readings of the text. We do not speak for Sarah J. Maas, though we like to think we do sometimes, and we know you'll have your interpretations too. We'd love to hear them, so share away.
Language. We use explicit language and we can't help ourselves, so keep your headphones in and the kids away.
Themes. We will discuss tough topics like sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. We do our best to flag heavier moments where we can, but listener discretion is advised.
As always, let's keep the conversation going. Tag us, DM us, or use a submission form on our website. And if you want exclusive content and live streams, you'll find us over at patreon.com/booktalkforbooktalk.
Can't get enough analysis? Make sure to check out the Subtext Society Journal, where we write think pieces discussing the romance and romantasy genres as a whole, the ongoing conversations in the bookish community, and insights into the publishing world. Join us over at the Subtext Society Journal.substack.com.
Each week, we ask ourselves a question. This week is, how do we feel about Nesta's breakdown? Was it earned?
Themes we see in this section include breakthroughs and depression. All right, starting in chapter 43, Cassian and Nesta head to the spring court to tell Eris about the fate of his soldiers whom they encountered at the Bog of Orid. It starts out pretty humorous, right? It's a beautiful atmosphere, and Cassian's allergies create a jovial atmosphere almost. Like, it's cute the way that Nesta's like trying to catch him sniffling.
They're having a cute moment.
Exactly. However, the sight of all the flowers makes Nesta think of Elaine, and in doing so, she thinks about her past with Elaine and how close they were. Quote, sometimes she and Elaine had even shared the same bathwater, drawing straws for who went in second. Nesta's throat constricted, and she surveyed the swaying cherry blossoms overhead. Elaine would love this place. This is a very small moment, and Nesta refuses to acknowledge herself that she's emotional, but she's emotional when she thinks about Elaine, because in some ways, Elaine has become the symbol of all that Nesta has lost. She's lost a sense of purpose. In some ways, you know, she's finding purpose in her training, but she's lost who she once was, what she views as her previous identity, and she's lost that intimacy with her sister. And I do think it's important that this comes up because in some ways it makes her feel adrift, which is significant for the conversation she has with Tamlin at the end of this scene, but also for later on in the episode.
It's funny, you talk about intimacy, but I kind of view that as a false intimacy. It was her own forced proximity with her family, but like, it's not intimacy. It's not closeness. It was shared trauma, and they had to like fight to see who got to have at least the clean bathwater, and they were close, but at what cost? And did they really want that? So like, not that there's not intimacy there and there's not a closeness, but her time here, I very much view it as like, almost an understanding that like, can you even classify it as like they were super close if they were forced in that direction?
That's a good point.
And Elaine is very much associated with the spring court in these lines and in the fandom. And this is one particular quote that people love to reference when they talk about Elaine being linked with the spring court. Quote, the spring court had been made for someone like her being Elaine. Now, my question is, we view the spring court as like this really pretty, flowery place, but currently the spring court is overrun. It's gone out of control. It's not a peaceful place. It's making Cassian sick. The spring court, it might be pretty, but it is not very pleasant right now. And I think that maybe that's kind of what SJM is hinting at, of Elaine liking this place and being associated with this shit place.
That's actually an interesting point, because when we get to the next scene, Nesta thinks of the spring court as like hollow and empty. So if we equate Elaine to the spring court, is that not also equating her to hollowness and emptiness? Which is a very interesting thing to think about.
And that's Elaine. When Eris greets Nesta, he uses her full name, quote, hello, Nesta Archeron. By calling her full name, you could look at it as him showing respect for her while he has no respect for Cassian. I think that might be some of it there, but I also feel like it's almost reminding her that she was human because he is using her human name. Things barely get going between Eris and Cassian and Nesta. Like, he just arrives and Nesta starts clocking Eris so fast. Quote, Nesta studied every minute shift on Eris's face, rare rage glimmering in his eyes, displeasure in his pursed lips, annoyance in the fluttering of a muscle in his jaw, as if countless questions were racing through his mind. Eris's voice remained flat. It's such a great narrative, and I love getting this perspective from Nesta, and I also think it just shows what a great job SJM does, because whenever we've seen Eris before, from Cassian's perspective, Eris is always like 3 steps ahead. He's always so much smarter. He's conniving. He's just everything that Cassian's not. And Nesta's sitting here being like, oh, he's sweating. Oh, he is not comfy. I can manipulate and use this as much as I want, but Cassian missed all those moments.
He doesn't know what to look out for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nesta's trained in the art of cunning. It's not the right word, but
It works.
a courtier's job is to read body language, essentially. And you have to look for the small tells, especially when someone is also trained in that same art. Nesta is set off by Eris's accusations toward Cassian. And those accusations are that Cassian's a thoughtless brew. He killed all of the Autumn Court soldiers needlessly. He didn't try harder to save more of them. And Cassian feels guilty, and Nesta recognizes that. And in some ways, I think her displaced protection of Elaine needs to find a new home, and that new home is now Cassian in this instance. Quote, "Your soldiers shot an ash arrow through one of Azriel's wings. Such weapons are banned, aren't they?" she asked Cassian, whose features remained taut. The conflagration within her burned hotter, higher. She returned her attention to Eris. If he could toy with Cassian, then she'd return the favor. "Who were you storing those arrows for?" she mused. "Enemies abroad?" She smiled slightly. "Or an enemy at home?" Nesta delights in besting Eris in their little courtier game when Eris treats Cassian poorly. And I think that coming to Cassian's aid gives her strength because she's never really been protective of anyone else before that we've seen. And this is her refinding her voice in a lot of ways. Instead of being annoyed with Cassian's earnestness and honesty with Eris, because Cassian's like, "I'm really sorry. I will do anything I can to help the families of the people who've fallen," Nesta feels pride and admiration, which... has she really ever done that for anybody else? I know she's like, wants to tell everybody about how talented Gwyn is, but to feel actual pride and admiration for somebody's characteristics is, I think, a new thing. In my opinion, this conveys to me, like, any attempt she has made to bury her feelings for Cassian, those are feeling just as much as Cassian fails to hide his feelings for her. Because if she didn't care about Cassian, why would she feel pride and admiration? Quote, "Something like pride bloomed in her at Cassian's earnest words to Eris. He'd give all he had to those families if it would right this wrong." Now, because Nesta is speaking up, calling attention to herself, Eris turns his attention to her and uses food imagery and animal metaphors to try and regain the upper hand. This especially comes out when Cassian touches Nesta in a moment of like solidarity, companionship, gratitude. Like, "Thanks for coming to my defense, babe."
Yeah.
Quote, "Eris glanced between them, noted the hand on her back. What Cassian had left exposed. Eris said to Nesta with a smirk, 'You're a pretty little treat. I'd be happy to play any manner of game with you, Nesta Archeron.'" Eris attempts to patronize Nesta by making her nothing more than a little treat. A pretty little treat, mind you, or a plaything, kind of like a small animal of prey. He's the big animal, he's the big predator, she's the small prey animal.
Yeah, Eris is just trying to piss off Cassian by showing interest to Nesta. And I think that we should, as readers, remember this and therefore not trust shit when it comes to Eris. I know after this book, people were making cases of Eris and Nesta are actually mates. They should have ended up together. And it's like, guys, we can't trust anything he says. Like, the second that he sees Cassian's kind of interested, he's like, "Well, hey there, baby. How are you doing?"
It's no different than Nesta going after the Duke because someone
who
who was mean to Elaine wanted to go after the Duke. It's the same idea. Eris continues to reinforce the smallness of Nesta while also demeaning Cassian. Quote, "When you get tired of the animal," Eris said to her, jerking his chin toward Cassian, "come find me. I'll show you how a future High Lord plays." So not only is Cassian an animal, a baser animal, Eris reminds everybody, by the way, I'm a future High Lord, which is not guaranteed. His dad's not dead yet. He could die before that. The use of his title is meant to intimidate Nesta and Cassian and remind them of how inferior in status and strength they both are. But quite frankly, I think it's an empty threat to Cassian and Nesta.
I have full faith in me knowing exactly how I would react. And my reaction would be, if I actually cared about it, I'd fuck your dad. And I know I can say that with full faith because when I dated a guy who was going to be a lord and would try to like wave that over me, I said that to him. We didn't last.
I wonder why.
Don't try to show off to me. I will not be impressed.
She will humble you so fast.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this idea of Nesta being proud of Cassian's goodness. It's the same way, as I mentioned, she wants to laud the accomplishments of her friends. And in a lot of ways, these are markers of growth. This is an openness we haven't seen in Nesta before. She was protective of Elaine, but she never talked about how great Elaine was. And I think that's necessary because it's showing us she's capable of loving others unconditionally, which she didn't before. She didn't love Feyre, so she had to love Elaine.
Yeah, and again, arguably, did she love Elaine?
Right, exactly. When Eris sees Cassian touching Nesta's back, she wonders, quote, did Cassian have any idea of the things he left vulnerable for people like Eris to strike at? He lived too honestly, too boldly to notice or care. She couldn't help but admire it. It's such an interesting sentence or collection of sentences because every time I start reading it, I expect it to be critical, but it ends in admiration. This is among the first times Nesta thinks of Cassian's goodness and does not think of how that reflects her badness. She stops at his goodness, which when she thinks of Feyre, when she thinks of Elaine, she thinks of what people value in them versus what they don't value in Nesta. But in this case, she's able to focus entirely on Cassian, which, again, I think is important, showing growth.
I mean, she's deprogramming her brain actively. You can hear what her mom is telling her in her head of like, this is weakness, don't do that. And she's saying like, no, actually, I can admire this. Nesta then sees Tamlin. Tamlin shows up and Tamlin's like, rawr, you guys are in my land. And I love this. This is one of my favorite parts of the book because I think this is very clear of when Nesta's breakdown, this is like the start of it and the snowball. Now, obviously the snowball of it was the second the first chapter started. But in these accumulation of chapters, this is where I really see it beginning. So when she sees Tamlin, she thinks, quote, how all she'd been able to think of was shielding Elaine while Feyre had grabbed that knife and faced him. So when Tamlin shows up, Nesta's hiding with Elaine, and Tamlin is everything that she failed with Feyre.
Yeah, it's the culmination, right? Not only the hunting, but the feeling to protect her from being taken.
Yeah.
And it's funny, there is a moment earlier in the book where Nesta thinks about, like, I don't know what I would do if I ever saw him again.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's prepared for the emotions that come up in her when she sees him.
And that's why, kids, it's important to obsess in your head before you live out a moment so that you can be prepared for any avenue.
Or talk to your therapist.
And then you do it together and then you strategize.
That's healthy.
It actually is, because then they go, and what happens if that does happen?
I wasn't mocking you. I was agreeing with you. When Nesta sees Tamlin, she's confronted, as Jack pointed out, with a truth about herself that she's avoided for a long time. And I think it's poignant because she was forced to recall Elaine at the start of the chapter. She was forced to recall her trauma of being poor. And all of these are building layers and layers of hurts that she's avoided that now she's kind of getting caught under. Quote, Nesta didn't care if he'd come to help during the final battle with Hybern. Tamlin had hurt Feyre unforgivably. It had never concerned her before. Irked her, yes, but Nesta found her fingers curling, found her lips peeling back from her teeth as she snarled. Her youngest sister had been taken by this male because Nesta herself hadn't been able to face him. Tamlin had even looked at her and asked her if she'd go in Feyre's place. And she had said no because she was a hateful, horrible coward. So kind of like Jack, in my mind, this is the start of a very intense self-reflection journey that is long overdue for Nesta. It's admirable that she's in a place where she can admit that, like, oh, I am bothered that Feyre was taken. Oh, I do feel like shit that I let Feyre go. Oh, I know Tamlin is wrong and at fault for all that's happened to me. It's not me failing to protect Elaine. It's Tamlin and what he did. And this clarity is both good for her and also dooming her to this very intense self-reflection that she's going to have to go through. I also think it's important that she feels protective of Feyre in this instance. We've never seen that from her before. And again, we're getting both good and bad things happening here. This is all very necessary, but Nesta's going to hurt a whole lot in the process.
I mean, Nesta has to have learned to feel protective of Feyre now Otherwise, when she hurts Feyre in a couple chapters, it wouldn't hurt as much if she hadn't unlocked this emotional side of her wanting to be there for her sister.
Yep.
Or feeling protective of her. Now, work with me here. Tamlin inspires Nesta, and not to be better, but to face the beast that she already is. And she uses Tamlin quite a bit to compare herself, and not just this chapter and chapters to come up, of am I no better than him? Am I just doing the same thing he is? And I love it because we talked about Rhys and Tamlin being opposites as well, like two sides of the same coin. And then you throw in Nesta here, and now it's a 3-sided dice. And the three of them are just rolling around here. But they all have very similar stories. We've said it before in the past that this is the lowest moment for all three characters in this book. And it's great to see that Nesta, I feel like, is getting inspired by Tamlin. Not right now to do the better thing, not necessarily, but slowly but surely.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought. And if we go back to the Spring Court being a metaphor, Nesta does in fact see the neglect that Tamlin has wrought upon an area of his domain, right? He's responsible for the Spring Court and the people in it, and he's neglected it, and he's just wallowing.
Yeah.
That reflects who she was at the start of this novel. She was neglecting herself. She was neglecting her relationships. She was wallowing. And she despises Tamlin for where he is at. And she can't despise where Tamlin's at without either choosing to be different or despising herself.
Yeah, she doesn't even get to be mad that, like, he hurt Feyre.
Yeah.
Right? So does she, and so did she.
Yep. I do think it's important to point out this next quote I'm about to read because I feel like this is the beginning of the closure Nesta needed and will come to when she's in the Mountain Lake area with Cassian. Quote, I went into the cauldron because of you. Elaine went into the cauldron because of you. I don't care how much you apologize or try to atone for it or claim you didn't know the King of Hybern would do such a thing or that you begged him not to do it. You colluded with him because you thought Feyre was your property. Again, her ability to confront Tamlin and connecting her fate to his actions and not Feyre's actions is a huge step forward. And again, seeing how Feyre was treated and being mad about it is, to Jack's point, so important because of the way she's about to treat Feyre.
She's seeing the real enemy, and that is the patriarchy. Towards the end, Nesta points to Tamlin, and it is every bit of a threat that she is trying to make it be. Quote, Tamlin shrank from her outstretched finger, claws digging into the earth. Put that finger down, you witch. Nesta is pointing quite a bit in this episode. She's pointing to Tamlin. She's pointing to Amren later on. And it's very much of like whoever casts the first stone type of energy. But it's also one of those, if you point one finger, you have 4 more pointing back to you. Although technically 3 because my thumb goes that way. Unless you're a Spice Girl and then none of them point to you. Because they go, over there. Like, you know, they kind of like stick their whole hand out. You should look to see how Spice Girls point. This note isn't particularly analytical, but I think it's something SJM knows, and it's fun to remind ourselves. At the very end of this exchange with Tamlin and Eris, she tells Tamlin, quote, tell anyone you saw us, High Lord, and I'll rip your head from your body too. I just find it interesting because you know anything that's happening here, Rhys is going to see. And not just Cassian telling him. It's going to be Cassian replaying the memory for Rhys. And I just find it to be interesting because these are moments where we can see Nesta's growth and evolution and getting better and like really sticking up. I mean, she's not sticking up for Feyre necessarily in this moment. Rhys isn't in her brain. But I just find it to be whenever like whose eyes are here and whose eyes are going to be here. And then how does that change the way that Rhys treats her later? Which is none at all.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. Cassian and Nesta leave, and back at the House of Wind, Nesta is in the library doing some reflecting. It's late, Gwyn's already asleep, she doesn't know where Gwyn actually lives in the library, so she's staring down at the abyss of the library like people do, and she realizes she feels at home. Quote, this house was alive. It welcomed her, wanted her to grow and thrive. It was a place where she might rest or explore, where she could be whoever and whatever she wished. Was that what home was? She had never learned. But this place, yes, home might be a good name for it. Again, huge upgrade from the start of the novel when she's in a rundown apartment that's just a place that she sleeps. And the hovel, a place she hated. We've never seen her in a place she considered home.
Yeah. time to visit Valaris. Actually, it's an ad break. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV.
When I think of spring break, I think of Jack and I senior year Las Vegas. You know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but what doesn't stay in Vegas is the hydration our body needs no matter what.
If there's anything that I needed from that trip, it's Liquid IV. And now that I'm older, I really need Liquid IV after going out. I drink Liquid IV's sugar-free hydration multiplier all the time. I'm not even exaggerating.
Liquid IV's hydration multiplier hydrates me better than water alone.
If you're going to Coachella or any music festival, this is the perfect thing to put in your purse because only one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates faster than water alone. It's powered by LIV, Hydroscience, and an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration.
Compared to water, Liquid IV delivers longer lasting hydration and retains hydration for up to 4 hours. It's backed by a scientific advisory board with world-renowned researchers to conduct clinical research trials.
And for our vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free girlies, this is perfect for you.
It's always non-GMO and has delicious sugar-free options like mandarin orange, rainbow sherbet, my favorite, mango pineapple, and more.
Soak up unforgettable memories with on-the-go hydration from Liquid IV. Tear pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first purchase with code BOOKTALK at checkout.
That's 20% off your first purchase with code BOOKTALK, BOOKTALK, at liquidiv.com.
Amy, we were just in New York for BookCon, and did you notice that all of the New York girlies were wearing quince?
You're so right. They were stylish, street appropriate, but also business casual.
It's amazing how I was spotting some of Quince's staple pieces on the street. I can always spot one of their Mongolian cashmeres from a mile away because it's always so soft and so nice. Quince really spends time on making sure they give you the best quality clothing they can with premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra soft denim.
Their styles make getting dressed simpler. They make me feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together with tops that start at just $30. You can't beat that for work.
Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup.
Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk. I want to keep reading this quote. Was that what home was? She had never learned. But this place, yes. Home might be a good name for it. Perhaps that was what Feyre had felt too when she left the Spring Court and come to these lands. Perhaps Feyre had fallen in love with this court as much as she had its ruler. Nesta is starting to slowly understand this whole found family situation. She's starting to understand that home is a place you find. It's not necessarily a place where you were brought up or forced to live. And I think it's really wonderful that this moment is happening because she's coming into this realization because she's about to be tested. It's great setup for what's about to happen because we need to be able to believe that she comes out of it, which we'll get to at the end.
Yeah. And I think what's also important about this quote, because I have it later as well, is that Nesta identifies with Feyre. Like she's able to understand Feyre in this moment of not only do I understand what home is, I understand how Feyre could choose this place as her home, right? Because that was one of Nesta's criticisms for early on. Like, you've chosen this place over your family. This is the first time she's ever felt at home. This is the first time Nesta's ever felt at home. And I think the fact that she is capable of identifying with Feyre in this moment is also setting up for why Nesta will tell Feyre about the baby and the truth of her pregnancy. Now, I do want to point out before we move to the next chapter, one little moment that I thought was worth talking about, because it's been a while since we've talked about the house being a metaphor for Nesta's subconscious. So Nesta thinks, this place is home. And then she notices something happening in the dark depths of the library. Quote, there, in the heart of the black pit, like a tendril of smoke, something moved. It seemed to expand and contract, throbbing a wild beat. This makes me think of the Grinch when his heart grows 3 times to, the size.
Yeah.
At the very end, we learn that this area is the heart of the house, and the description, expand, contract, a throbbing wild beat, like that's a heartbeat that she's describing.
Yeah.
And that heartbeat is growing, maybe being seen for the first time because Nesta has accepted the house as her home and a place where her heart belongs. And if her heart belongs in the House of Wind, then the House of Wind now has a heart too.
Yeah. Take a sip.
Take a sip.
We are now in chapter 44, and in Nesta's bedroom, Cassian finds the papers that Nesta is reading about the Valkyries. Quote, she had been reading about them, she'd explained when he picked up the pages and leafed through them. His only answer had been to kiss her deeply before lying on her bed, positioning her above his face so that he could feast on her leisurely. It's funny because it's like it just keeps coming back to what we've said about them over and over, that their language is sex and physical intimacy. He can't tell her how proud he is of her, not just because they're just friends with benefits, but because Nesta can't take that emotionally right now. If he were to say like, babe, you're doing so great, I'm so proud of you, I think she'd be like shutting down, be like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna go do something else. Yeah. But what he can do is eat her out like a fucking champ.
And then we get this little glimpse of some 6ix9ine action. Quote, she'd never done that, feasted and been feasted upon. And he'd come on her tongue just before she'd come on his. So I know it's sex, but like it's interesting to look at this from a food as power moment.
Yeah. Because
this is the first time in the bedroom they are equals in a way, right? They are both feaster and feasted. And I think how I choose to interpret it is that like there's a level of respect that both of them are showing each other. Nesta defended Cassian. They supported each other at the spring court. He's proud of her. She's proud of him. It's just kind of a beautiful, sexy way to represent like the emotional part that they're going through.
It's really funny how perfect of like, yeah, neither one of them are fighting for control or for balance. Like neither one of them are trying to be the more dominant, setting the rules. It truly is a very equal yin yang thing. I gotta say, not something I think of when I think 6ix9ine. I love that SJM has turned this position into a very intimate thing. Not that I would know, but I was like, huh, all right.
Can you say it's giving yin yang again? Because it sounded like yin yin.
Oh, it's giving yin yang but like I also don't want to disrespect yin yang. It's
balance.
Like, it's balance, but like, I know that's not what ancient scholars thought of. When,
you know what?
Maybe they did. People were dirty.
Maybe. I mean, also, the symbol itself looks like a 6ix9ine. So
that's why I'm really questioning everything. Everything was sex back in the day. And now and forever.
So the day after this beautiful equality in the bedroom, Nesta, Emery, Gwyn, the priestesses, they're all training. Cassian's there. And they come to learn that Cassian fought beside the Valkyries. Quote, this was the male she'd taken to her bed, who'd left again last night without kissing her goodbye. Now, this is said in the context of like, he knew the Valkyries were going to go on a suicide mission. He wanted to fight it. The Illyrian captains basically knocked him out so that he couldn't go help them. And then all the Valkyries were wiped out. On one hand, in this context, Nesta is valuing Cassian for his valor, for his respect of the Valkyries. Like, he's the greatest general of the Night Court, and yet he has a lot of respect for these female warriors. On the other hand, she's also like, but if you respect women so much, why won't you kiss me goodbye? And I just think it's hilarious because this is the same woman who says it's just sex and won't ask for post-sex cuddles.
I know.
But now she wants post-sex goodbyes?
Yeah.
And it's said in such passing between a bunch of dialogue that it's a clear sign Nesta's getting attached without being willing to acknowledge the fact that she's getting attached.
I also think it's good setup for her to feel like shit about herself because Nesta's about to enter into full confirmation bias mode where she's going to look for anything to confirm why she's not a good person and why she is the way she is in her head. When I read it, it was like, this guy is so good. He is such a good man. He was going to fight for the Valkyries. He had to be tied down. And yet this great man won't kiss me goodbye. And I feel like for her, it just confirms that she's not worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a good sister, Feyre votes, because like at this point, Cassian goes to the river house and, you know, he just kind of summarizes and goes, you know, he asks Feyre, and Feyre was immediately, quote, she hadn't hesitated before saying Nesta should be informed. Of course, like we would never doubt Feyre wanting to keep that a secret. And I wonder if Nesta will eventually see this as one of her own failings again, that Feyre didn't even hold back and that she is like, no, we absolutely should tell Nesta. And Nesta hasn't questioned once on whether she should tell Feyre. There's never been a moment of, am I doing the right thing? Doesn't she deserve to know? Maybe I should ask Cassian or something, right? And it's just another thing that Feyre does better than Nesta. Okay, so before we go into Elaine's story about Nesta, because Elaine starts like talking about Nesta and, you know, the lore, I want to call this out. While talking about the Valkyries and, you know, Elaine's like, who's the Valkyries? And then Rhys was like, oh, there's some badass, scary women. But he says, quote, some were as lovely as you, Elaine, Rhys said from beside Feyre. From the outside, but once they set foot into the arena of battle, they became bloodthirsty as Amren. If I was Elaine, I would have been insulted as fuck by that. And I don't think Rhys was like trying to insult her. I think everyone like handles Elaine with these kid gloves. But he's literally saying like, oh, they were like so deceptive and just like pretty on the outside. But unlike you, Elaine, they had depth to them.
I highlighted that quote as well, and because I was annoyed at how long my notes were getting, I deleted it. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I agree. I definitely also recognized this as Rhys making a judgment on Elaine, and in some ways, it kind of confirms for Elaine, I assume, like, oh, nobody sees past my surface. And I do wonder to what extent this is a breadcrumb for who she will become later on. No, I'm not saying she'll become a Valkyrie.
I hope she doesn't. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I wonder if she will become her own monster.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very curious to see how that goes, because I don't think I want her necessarily like all of a sudden like, oh, wow, every woman here is just like a trained warrior, which like, you know, yes, they should be. But as someone who can't run a mile, where's my representation? Let's just have Elaine squat really heavy.
There you go. She can lift some weights, lift some bags of soil.
Yeah.
So during this same dinner, Elaine starts to talk about Nesta, and that's in the context of the Valkyrie training and someone saying that Nesta would have fit in with them. Elaine says, quote, I always thought she was born on the wrong side of the wall. She made ballrooms into battlefields and plotted like any general. Now, this is great setup for a lot of reasons. Even if it's a little on the nose, it sets up the narrative of dance as battlefields, just like other societal interactions and norms and courtier stuff has been set up to be like a battlefield. There's an interesting mix of metaphors, though, in this discussion, and the animal metaphors associated with Nesta get mixed into this battlefield and dancing situation. Elaine says, quote, Nesta is a wolf who has been locked in a cage her whole life. You haven't seen her on the dance floor. That's when Nesta truly lets the wolf roam free. Now, what does this mean? Figuratively, on the dance floor, Nesta's a predator. She's most in her element. It's significant that Elaine views Nesta as a wolf because at the start of the book, Nesta also viewed herself as a wolf. Cassian sees her as a wolf, and he has even this thought on the side, quote, she was a wolf who had never learned how to be a wolf, thanks to that cage humans called propriety and society. And like any maltreated animal, she bit anyone who came near. Good thing he liked being bitten. Haha.
Again, remember the symbolism of what wolf means at the very beginning of this book. Who was a wolf? A fae. At the very beginning of this whole series. For Feyre to kill was a fae in wolf's clothing, right? And Elaine saying that Nesta always belonged to be like on this side of the wall. To me, it's similar of, you know, a fae in wolf's clothing type thing.
Yeah. She's a fae in human's clothing to start off with. A lot of people theorize about the lineage of Mama Archeron. I think this just contributes to it, to be honest.
We'll go more into that for Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks.
Yeah. Not for this conversation. What I do want to go back to is the propriety in society. They are a cage. And Nesta, in that cage, has been maltreated. She's essentially been like an animal in a zoo while she was human. And like any animal in a zoo, she was trained to behave a certain way because of those trappings. Quote, our mother saw Nesta's talent when we were children and honed it into a weapon. Amren asked pointedly, so your mother twisted Nesta's creative joys into a social climber's arsenal? Okay, Amren pisses me off any other time. This time, she's spot on. That is warped. And the thing, as I was thinking about this metaphor, is that if the mother was the zookeeper, the one that trained Nesta, and the zookeeper goes away, what happens to the animal, right? What happens to all the energy?
Yeah.
And in Nesta's case, we've seen it. It becomes warped. It's used without moderation or care. It becomes a weapon to wield against everybody.
Yeah. It is really sad that Nesta was essentially trained that the things you love should be weapons. You don't get to have anything that is for leisure, just to chill, just to have, just to enjoy.
Yep.
It's meant to be a weapon, which is, very, very, very sad. Is all this zoo talk making you want to go to a zoo? Because after saying zoo over and over again, and then I was talking about the San Diego Zoo, I'm just like, I really want to go to the zoo. I might have to settle for the LA Zoo, but
I was like, oh, the weather's been nice. We could go on a walk to the LA Zoo. That's what I was thinking.
Were you thinking before I said anything?
Yeah.
And I was also thinking that we should go to the LA Zoo. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I shock myself anymore. Why we shock me. All right. Slight rant. Quote, another young heiress was at the ball, and she positively hated me. She was several years older, and I never done anything to provoke her hatred. But I think she was jealous of your beauty, Amren said, an amused smile on her red lips. Helene blushed. Again, at first I was like, fucking hell with this, me, I'm so pretty attitude, right? However, it is a reminder that Elaine and Nesta were sexualized very young. Elaine's beauty is what got her in trouble. Elaine was 13. Nesta's was freaking 14 here. And this story is sad. I know that we're talking about wow, what a great battle-trained warrior Nesta is. And Elaine's beauty is what got her into this place. But it's oh, you were 13 years old, barely had your period, and people were targeting you this way. And with Nesta, that's even more sad because Amren gets impressed by a younger Nesta. Quote, Amren was grinning now. Nesta tried to win a duke out of spite at 14? That's horrible.
Yeah.
14-year-old is still a child. A child should not know how to use her sexuality to lure someone, to get them into marriage. That is a taught behavior. That is not a natural behavior. And Amren is impressed with it. At one point, Reese is the only one. He was like, she was 14. He's the only dad in this situation. And being excuse me, minor, anyone?
Yeah.
So it's a sad story, even though Amren's grinning at it, Cassian's grinning, everyone's just kind of oh my God, what a fun story about Nesta. But in actuality, it's oh, so your mother was forcing you to know how to use your body from a child age.
Right. And she's lucky the Duke didn't do shit because he could have.
I mean, he went to her father being like, hey, can I put her on hold?
Right.
Is there a layaway option? Can I make payments until she's 18, please? But the Duke didn't push it any farther and listen to her dad. It could have very easily have been a prince and someone that her dad wouldn't have been able to say no to. Take a sip. Fight the patriarchy.
All right, we're now moving into chapter 45, and Nesta sees herself differently than everyone else the night before in this scene, which I think is super duper important, again, for us as readers to notice the change in Nesta, which, again, is also setting up for the test she's about to endure. Now, Nesta, Emery, Gwyn, they're all training again with Cassian. Cassian wants Nesta to pick a random name, if you had a weapon, what would you name it? Because he's really smart.
You and I wouldn't question it. I could be if you could name your left boob, what would it be? And you'd be like, Stephanie, I don't know.
Audrey.
Left side's Audrey, right side's Hepburn.
No, it'd be Audrey 1, Audrey 2.
Really? Why?
Oh, I'm joking. That's a Little Shop of Horrors reference.
Oh, okay. Nice. No, one should be Seymour. Or your vagina Seymour. No, your vagina is the plant. Oh, what a fun game.
So let me get to the quote. Nesta hid her smile. She loved this when the three of them, being she, Emery, and Gwyn, ganged up on Cassian like lionesses around a very muscled, very attractive carcass. Gone is the lone wolf that Nesta identified as. Gone is the lone wolf that the inner circle thinks of her to be. Nesta likes being part of a pack. She's a lioness with her friends, and lionesses are notorious for hunting together. They're still predators, but they're all dominant females working together. Teamwork. I think that's a huge, huge shift for Nesta.
Yeah, it's great. We're happy she's found a community. Like, this is the beginning of her own Valkyrie army is making fun of Cassian. And it's just so sad how quickly that gets knocked down a few pegs.
So this is when Nesta gets it out of Cassian that, oh, the inner circle knew that I forged weapons that have magic and decided to have a vote to decide whether I should be informed.
There's no good way of delivering this, but baby boy, Cassian, sweet baby angel, does not know how to deliver information.
Nope, not at all. During the fight with Cassian, where he's trying to make it better and she just gets more mad, quote, her voice became sharp as glass. I point this out because there's a lot of things that are about to be shattered throughout this sequence. And for it to start with Nesta's voice, the glass being brittle, fragile, shattered, kind of a makeshift weapon, reinforces her internalized experience. Quote, there was a possibility you wouldn't even tell me. You all sat around and judged me, and then you voted. Something deep in her chest cracked to know that every horrible thing about her had been analyzed. It even shatters the camaraderie she was feeling with Emery and Gwyn just moments before, because now she's projecting judgment of the inner circle onto them. So they will be as judgy as the inner circle is to her. Quote, their faces bunched with concern in a way Nesta knew she didn't deserve, in a way that she knew would one day vanish when they too realized what a wretch she was. This self-hatred rearing its ugly head is in clear correlation to every good thing that she's felt recently, right? It has to undo the good feelings she has towards her friends, undo what she's felt about finding this place as her home, because she hasn't yet fully healed. And she cannot enjoy the good things until she's done the full required work of healing. And in a lot of ways, whether or not Cassian intended it to be this way, this is the final shove and the final shattering before Nesta can fully heal.
I mean, this was inevitably going to happen. And I mean this from a very structural storytelling point of view. Like, we're doing a great job analyzing it. Whether you want to think it's great too is not for me to know. But it's just something that was going to happen. It's happening at 65% into the book. It is almost its own kind of emotional climax in a way. And it's just very good structural storytelling. The writing in these next few chapters, I feel like, is peak SJM. And I wrote in my notes, you can't change my mind. Okay. I don't want someone to try to do it because they'll probably find a better moment. Quote, she waited until she sensed him leave, giving up on her as everyone else had done, and then shut off the flow. So this is Nesta in her bathroom. She turned on the bathtub, waited until Cassian left, and she turns off the tub when he leaves. And it's just like her shutting off her own growth. We talk about the bathtub being representative of cleansing of sins, of baptismal. She's literally turning off the flow of her forgiveness of herself. And she's also looking for evidence, again, confirmation bias, to show, to prove why she is as worthless as she has continued to think that she is.
Now, this is when Nesta goes down the 10,000 steps. And I think you can look at the descent in a number of different ways. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them. I think Jack's going to talk about them as well. You can look at the descent down the 10,000 steps as kind of an unearned victory, because prior to this, it was always about how far could she get, but she always had to go back up. This is not fueled by anything. It's not self-awareness. It's not anything positive. It's purely self-hatred and anger that's fueling her, which didn't become the purpose of the stairs. The stairs may have started that way, but they became a place for her to continue to train and grow and develop resilience.
And meditate.
Quote, she didn't count the stairs, didn't feel her legs moving. She couldn't think around her fury, that pain. Couldn't think, only move. The stairwell turned warmer, farther away from the cold wind above. In taking this descent, in some ways, Nesta is literally spiraling away from herself. We've talked about cold wind being representative of her and Cassian. She's descending from it. She's spiraling from it. And this is the one time she takes the stairs and doesn't go back up, right? Back up to what she now views as home. She's truly choosing to get as far away from the symbol of progress that she possibly can get. Does it necessarily counteract the effort and growth leading up to this point? Not necessarily. I think with every rise, there is a fall. And when you're healing, there are necessary tailspins before you can really confront hard things. And in this case, it's confrontation of Nesta's fatal flaw, which is her need to hurt people.
I mean, it's not even about 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's she did 1 step forward, 2 steps back, half a step forward, 1 step to the left, a little bit to the right, then back, then forward again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a victory, but I love the way you described it. It's a hollow victory. She doesn't have to go back upstairs, but at the same time, she doesn't go straight to a bar. She goes straight to confront Amren. There's a lot of
Cue dramatic music and an ad.
Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use.
So the thoughts that keep Nesta going down the stairs, quote, Nesta knew that debate had been out of a desire to help her. She could acknowledge that. That was the debate that she's talking about here is sending her to the House of Wind and her first stint in rehab, essentially. This debate had been out of hatred and fear of herself. So Nesta recognizes here very clearly that training has done her good. That coming to the House of Wind, that being in this environment is good for her. Not just that, she can even understand that they wanted to help her. That's also huge. It's more than just this was the right call. Oh, you didn't do this because you hated me. You did this because you care. I think, though, that Nesta is in the right with her anger. I don't think anyone here is going to be no, that sucks. But the thing is, Nesta's being judged on her previous actions, and her previous actions has not necessarily earned respect yet. Her current actions are earning her respect. Would Nesta have acted out the way that Amren accuses her of acting out? I don't think so. But she doesn't have like social credit with them yet.
Well, it's not like they've taken the time to like actually see.
Yeah, it's nuanced, right? Like,
Right.
I don't blame them for saying like, hey, maybe we shouldn't trust Nesta yet. But at the same time, they're not taking the time to get to know her. But at the same time, Nesta's not letting anyone in to get to know her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, it goes
Yeah.
back and forth. And that's why it's so great is that there is no one right answer here. It is nuanced.
Yeah. Before we end the chapter, when Nesta emerges into Valoris, there's this moment with sunlight. And I'm going to point it out now because I believe SJM uses sunlight to be symbolic for truth and for what Nesta can no longer hide from. And the fact that she is confronted with sunlight as she emerges from the stairs in this rage. Let me read the quote and then I'll say my other thought. Quote, "Sunlight flooded the stairwell, revealing cobblestones beyond. Rage rippled like a storm around her. Nesta stepped back into Valoris at last." So Nesta's going to be equated to a storm often. She has been often. That storm is what is keeping her blind, right? The storm comes in and hides the sunlight. And so right now, for her to not face that sunlight, but to summon a storm metaphorically around her is her choosing to be blind to what she's about to do. And again, I agree with Jack. I think Nesta's right to be upset. I think that however warranted it is, it does lean into her confirmation bias that is unhealthy and self-destructive, which is what she needs to heal from.
We all take a sip. We heal from dehydration. We then go into chapter 46. And remember when we said an episode or two ago that Amren was a bitch? It gets so much worse.
I love that opening. Now, despite stepping foot in Valoris for the first time in months, Nesta, as we've seen her do before, refuses to acknowledge her surroundings. Quote, "Didn't note the vibrant oranges and reds and yellows of the autumn trees or the sparkling blue of the Sidra as she crossed one of the countless bridges spanning its winding body, aiming for its western bank. It's a beautiful day." And Nesta refuses to acknowledge how pretty it is because she's so unhappy. I took this moment to be like, she metaphorically cannot see the big picture right now. She's blinded to other factors that we've already discussed of like, well, you know, they don't know how hard you're trying. And so I think if she could stop and take a breath, maybe she could get around there. But if she could stop and take a breath, she might get to that. But that's not where she's at right now. The shattering imagery continues. Quote, "No memory of the walk over before she slammed a hand into the wooden door. It shattered beneath her palm, wards fracturing like glass." Nesta's crossing a threshold by going into Amren's apartment this way. She's doing irreparable damage. I've talked about shattered doorways before in the context of Feyre's life, where it's the closing of a chapter and the opening of a new one. And that kind of continues to be the same for Nesta here. She's about to enter a point of no return. And that's purely because of the actions she's about to take, and especially revealing Feyre's truth.
Who is someone that shattered a door and took Feyre's innocence in a way?
Tamlin.
Yep. What is Nesta doing right now? Coming in, shattering a door, and taking this other reality. Not innocence. Let's call it reality. Tamlin took Feyre from her previous reality, and Nesta is taking Feyre from her previous reality. She is Tamlining in this. Amren and Nesta are going head to head, and Amren tells Nesta that she's on her side and how she helped Nesta. Quote, "I told them to leave you alone for months. I refused to speak about you with them. And then the moment I realized my behavior was not helping you, that maybe your sister was right, I somehow betrayed you." I really don't like Amren in this moment because what I'm hearing is Amren fucked up. Amren was the one who isolated Nesta. Amren is the one who kept everyone away. Feyre's her sister. She could have absolutely have like ignored Amren and gone and done her own thing, right? But Amren is the one who didn't help Nesta and like essentially like led her to this place, right? Nesta's actions are her own actions. Amren didn't get her there. But what I absolutely hate is when someone doesn't take any kind of ownership or responsibility. Can't stand when people won't take responsibility. And the thing is, Nesta is evidence of Amren's own emotional failings. We already know that Varian at one point was like, Amren, what did we discuss? Right? Like trying to teach her how to have emotions and stuff. But just like Nesta is a creature, of her own mother's creation, Nesta's also kind of a creature of Amren's creation.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And in a lot of ways, Amren was a stand-in for Mama Archeron.
Yeah.
Right? Amren teaching Nesta how to use her powers in some ways no different than her mother teaching her how to be a courtier.
Feminine powers, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we hate Amren so much.
I hate Amren.
I mean, the thing is I generally usually like her. If there's anyone to dislike in this book, it's Amren.
I don't remember liking her in previous seasons. Someone's going to have to send me an episode link of which is the one that I liked her so that I can be reminded. I know I did, but I also know there were moments that we were like, or maybe that was more. I don't know. We'll circle back.
What I find curious in this scene is how Nesta talks about Feyre with Amren. Nesta's mad at Amren and accuses Amren of not being on Nesta's side. And we know this from the quote Jack just read, but essentially Nesta feels like Amren chose Feyre over Nesta. And at first, Nesta makes it sound like she hates Feyre. Quote, Nesta shook. You know how I feel about Feyre. And then later on, Amren's like, she did it because she loves you. And Nesta continues, quote, Feyre doesn't love me. In her head, she thinks she didn't deserve Feyre's love just as Tamlin hadn't. So she's making the connection, right? Nesta's making the connection that she is no different from Tamlin, especially in this moment. And it's a moment of self-hatred. I just find it very, very interesting that it starts with how I feel about Feyre. Why did you pick her over me? And at the end of the day, Feyre is the symbol of Nesta's self-hatred, right? Because Nesta's always failed Feyre. And for people to always choose Feyre is to always deny Nesta or to reject Nesta. And it just becomes an ugly cycle for her. I did have a thought, though, while I was taking notes. If Nesta doesn't feel like she deserves Feyre's love, and Feyre loves Rhys, and Rhys is a mirror of Nesta, it's another reason for Nesta to hate Rhys, because he doesn't deserve Feyre's love either.
And why does he get Feyre's love? I love that. Fuck, that was good. All right, so Nesta doesn't believe that Feyre loves her because it would then prove that she would be worth loving, to keep playing off of that. Because, again, if Rhys represents Feyre or Nesta in a way, and Rhys is worthy of her love, or at least Feyre has deemed him worthy of her love, then maybe Nesta's worthy of that too. And if Nesta's worthy, then what's the point of all this spiraling?
Yeah. We continue to get confirmation bias coming through Nesta's point of view. Quote, was she any different than she'd been this summer when she and Amren had fought on the barge, and Amren's utter disappointment in her failure to be anything had surfaced at last? Amren was just like, your sister wants me to continue working with you on your magic.
Yeah, it was a very dumb thing that Nesta reacted to. Again, it's like, Nesta, you got to calm down. It was not a bad
but she
thing.
Interprets it as Amren was disappointed in her, that she had failed.
Because she was her mommy.
Yeah, Amren has become a Mama Archeron stand-in.
Amren? Archeron? It was there the whole time. More assumptions about Amren is the fact of this, like, it just bums me out, this whole thing about friendship. So Nesta yells at Amren, you were my friend. Amren's teeth flashed. Was I? I don't think you know what that word means. Oh, that hurt me? I think it's Amren not knowing what that word means and struggling with that. I think that Amren knows somewhat of friendship with Rhys, Cassian, Azriel, but like with them, she's more powerful and she can kill them all, right?
Yeah.
So there was like a certain dynamic. She meets Nesta. It's kind of a fresh start. And I don't think Amren knew what to do with Nesta as a friend, and she failed Nesta as a friend. And Amren is lashing out at Nesta because Nesta represents her own failings the same way that Feyre represents Nesta's failings. Nesta is Feyre to Amren. There we go. I came to a thought eventually. Then we get the moment of truth. Feyre shows up and she's like, hey guys, let's calm down. Nesta, let's get out of here. Let's go like have some tea. She doesn't say that. But then Nesta turns on Feyre and says, quote, have any of them told you, their respected high lady, that the babe in your womb will kill you? Now it's wrong. It's so wrong that Nesta revealed it in this way. But it's also not wrong that Nesta revealed it. And Nesta brings in the moral complexities while Feyre is the one who clears them away. I think that Feyre has always been very easy to be a moral character. Like, I think she's always known morality. Even when she chooses the quote unquote morally gray route, like, it's not without her struggling with it. And it's like why she votes in favor for Nesta. But I love that we get two characters, two sisters, one who's morally complex, the other one who's a little bit easier to forgive. And we kind of have to trust Feyre is the one to forgive and trust her forgiveness, which we'll get into because people get angry about it. Then we get this other moment of truth, and that is Nesta watching Feyre's reaction. And I reread this line a million times because it hurt so good. Quote, "And Nesta knew then that she had not once in her life been loved by her mother as much as Feyre already loved the boy growing within her. It broke something in Nesta, broke that rage, that roaring, seeing those tears begin to fall. The fear crumpling Feyre's paint-smeared face. She had gone too far. Oh gods. What Nesta needs is a father and a mother's. It's so interesting because, like, what she needs is a mother's love, metaphorical or otherwise. And what she also needs is, like, forgiveness of her father. And Feyre is that forgiving mother figure that Nesta is going to really rely on. And, you know, I'm not saying that. No, I will say it. So Feyre forgiving Nesta is going to be huge of, like, a mother forgiving a child. I'm not saying that Nesta is her mother, but Feyre is now the only example of a mother that actually cares.
Yeah. Which is so poetic in this moment where Nesta is fighting with her metaphorical mother, Amren.
Yeah.
Right? Amren is embodying the cycle that Nesta probably might have lived through with her real mother. Had her mother not died.
Yep.
So for Feyre to shatter that cycle and to weep and mourn and show love is the only thing that could help Nesta face the truth. So before the chapter ends, we switch to Cassian's point of view. And Cassian is with Rhys when Feyre learns the truth from Nesta about her pregnancy. And she communicates with Rhys mind to mind, and Cassian watches Rhys's face do its thing. Quote, "Rhys's voice was a thing of nightmares, of the darkness between the stars." Now, I highlighted this because, okay, Rhys is mad, but darkness between the stars has only really been used one other time, and that's Nesta's description of the coldness of the cauldron in the prologue. It was like within the first paragraph of this book.
There was another book, I want to say it was Throne of Glass, where that description was used too.
Maybe.
But in this book, I'm agreeing in this specific book, yes, I need to, that unlocked a memory that is never going to be unlocked, but I will keep thinking of it.
Now, I do think that the use of this imagery is once again tying Rhys to Nesta, because in some ways, Nesta telling Feyre the truth calls out Rhys for not telling Feyre the truth, right? Yeah. So to what extent is Rhys mad at himself that this is the way it played out when he could have prevented that? There is more mirroring between Rhys and Nesta that I think continues to drive the point home. Quote, "Get Nesta out of this city right now. Rhys's power rumbled in the room like a rising storm. Before I fucking kill her." Now, look, Nesta was literally a storm at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
Being a storm all the way to Amren's place. They are both storms. When they speak, the world pauses, the ground rumbles. Like, these are all things we've seen with Nesta. So, again, if Nesta and Rhys are mirrors of each other, Rhys is pissed at Nesta. Because also, by the way, Nesta did swear on her life that she wouldn't tell Feyre. So she also, broke a promise. But at the end of the day, Nesta's actions reflect poorly on Rhys and his decisions.
Yep. Stitches get stitches. I don't know why I love that line so much when he goes, "Before I fucking kill her." It's just because it's so wrong and that he has no right to feel mad about it, but he also has a right to be a little bit mad. And it's just such a great parallel between Rhys and Nesta, right? Like, they're both wrong with hints of right, but like mostly wrong.
Yeah. It also, to me, and maybe this is a stretch, guys, and people are going to leave comments. And, if you want to call me out, call me out. But that's the kind a thing you say to your sibling.
Yeah.
Get out of my room before I fucking kill you. Like, yeah, I've said that. So was he serious, or is it just something you say when you're comfortable with the presence of someone? I don't know. Maybe a stretch.
Have any of your siblings that in like angry be like, I hate you? We would get in so much trouble. Like we would get like spanked. Like it was not acceptable to say that we hated each other or wanted to kill each other. Like it was hard rules on that.
You think anybody was around when we said that to each other?
We were traumatized.
Yeah, no, there were no witnesses.
That's so funny. Quick sip.
We are now in chapter 47, and the self-hatred floodgates are open. Quote, Nesta deserved to be turned into bloody mist by Rhysand. Wished Cassian had not come to save her. I bring that up because, obviously, Nesta hates herself. We're going to get a lot of that coming on right now. This is also on the heels of Rhysand saying, I'm going to kill her. Nesta doesn't know that, but they both are super mad at Nesta, but
Yeah.
themselves as well, right? And they're both violent about it because that's the only way they know how to solve problems. It's worth pointing out. However, but because Nesta's in this really dark place, is she capable of being a reliable narrator? That's a rhetorical question. Throughout her interactions with Cassian, she is like, he's, cold. There's no smile. There's no warmth in his face. And at one point, he offers to make a fire when they're on the mountain, Sleeping Mountains. Quote, I'll make a fire, he went on, and there was nothing kind in his face. Yeah, that might be true in this moment, but how do we know for certain if it's true?
It's funny because I feel like this is the first time she is being reliable, where it's like, we actually know, like when we get into Cassian's point of view, he is punishing her. He is not happy. Like he wants her to suffer.
I think that, yes, but it also is confirmation bias in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because she thinks some pretty dark things about herself.
Absolutely. No, it's not a great spot to be in while someone's mad at you.
Yeah. We do switch to Cassian's point of view, and Rhys reaches out to check in. And during this moment, Cassian is, quote, pulled from where he'd been watching the stars appear over the sprawling view. This stood out to me because the last time Cassian talked to Rhys, the stars were going out in Rhys's eyes. And in some ways, does the imagery convey a sense of things being back to a status quo for at least the rest of the inner circle, right? Not Nesta. Forget Nesta. Nesta's in her own special world right now. But for everybody else, the stars are coming back. Things are kind of leveled out. And I think it's because at the end of it, Feyre's willingness to be resilient.
Yeah.
And to be mad, but accept that they need to find a path forward.
I do want to clarify. He doesn't talk to Rhys. Rhys doesn't reach out to him. Feyre does.
Sorry, Feyre does. I forgot. You're right. It is Feyre who reaches out. Either way, still relevant.
Still applies.
Feyre's putting the stars back in the sky.
Yeah.
Not
Rhys. It's her forgiveness, right? Like, that's the thing. So, when we're in his point of view, and Feyre is the one who starts talking, and this is where I think people start crapping on Feyre quite a bit, because Cassian apologizes to Feyre, and then she gets mad, and so he says, quote, I'm sorry you had to learn of it. And then she responds, I'm not. I'm furious with all of you. I understand why you didn't tell me, but I'm furious. So this is where the stars are coming back, right? People think Feyre forgives too easily, and maybe that's true. We are not in her point of view. We do not know the conversation she has with everyone. Cassian is conveniently away. We don't know what it would have been like if he was in town and she was made everyone sit down and she chewed everyone out. We don't know what those conversations are like. But I do want to give her props that she understands that this was a joint effort. She's not just being mad at Rhys. And Feyre, while she does get mad, we also know historically how she chooses to handle things, and that's to face things and go through it. And people again say that when it comes to Rhys, she's too forgiving, that they have sex and everything is forgiven. We don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know if it ended with them kissing, not kissing, having sex. We are the ones who said it, that sex is used as a manipulation tactic to go straight into forgiveness. And I kind of think that it's hard because you don't want to use sex as punishment because she's punishing herself too. But I think we crap on her and it's not fair.
I agree. And she says at the end, and this is another quote that I ended up cutting because I didn't want to keep writing my notes, but she says, like, I will not let my son feel fear.
Yeah.
Right? And that's part of it is I respect Feyre for saying, I will not allow the negative emotions to remain in my body because you don't know how the body is going to hold on to it, what that means. And she and the baby are already at risk.
Yeah.
Like, she has to choose, if not optimism, resilience, because that's the only way she can have hope for the future.
And it's not just her, like Reese is going to die too, right? And so I think there's a little leeway of the man who also, you know, I know he doesn't care about his life, but Feyre, what is she going to be mad at is like Reese is going to die too. She doesn't want him to die. Like, it's a sad time for everyone all around. So like, I get it. But Cassian, on the other hand, he is pissed and he is the one who chooses how Nesta's going to handle fear. So Feyre says, okay, Nesta can come home. Like, Reese overreacted. And Cassian tells Feyre, quote, she comes home when I decide she's ready to come home. Now, the feminist in me wants to say, like, Cassian, you cannot tell her when she is or when she is not ready. The other side of me understands that you need someone there. You got to push through. You're not going to get through something without going through it.
Right. And he knows probably better than anyone, like, she needs to reflect. She's not going to be able to reflect if she's back amongst everyone that has made her mad and feel distrusted. And she gives herself over to training and working. Those are easy ways for her to distract herself from what she really needs to do.
Pause the mating bond. We'll be right back.
When I moved in with my partner is when I realized how much effort she puts into her skincare. She spends so much time and money just on what she puts on her skin. But the one thing she doesn't invest in is our bedding.
Well, that's because you're now investing in it with Boll and Branch.
From their organic cotton sheets to their breathable pillows and comforters, Boll and Branch makes their bedding with ultra clean materials that are gentle on the skin and free from harsh chemicals.
Boll and Branch really feels like my first grown-up sheets. And you can really feel the difference with their signature sheet sets. Remember, these sheets are touching you for up to 8 hours every single night. You're going to want to have the best sheets possible. Have you noticed that the pockets of the fitted sheets are perfect for forming around the mattress?
This is the first set of sheets that I haven't had to help my partner put them on the bed because the pockets are too small. They are so easy to get on the bed.
These are honestly the first pair of sheets that I have that I don't wake up with my sheets halfway wrapped around me. They are durable, they are soft, and the longer you use them, the softer they become.
Upgrade your sleep with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off your first order plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/booktalk with code BOOKTALK, BOOKTALK.
That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/BOOKTALK, and use code BOOKTALK to unlock 15% off. Exclusions apply. It's kind of like the opposite of like before she was left alone with her own thoughts, and right now she needs to be left to deal with her own thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to take a sip.
Okay. We all take a sip.
All right, moving on to chapter 48. The sun becomes unrelenting in this chapter. And again, I think it suggests Nesta finally facing or having to face the truth that she's been running from. She starts the day by, quote, cracking open an eye against the blinding brightness of dawn. Whether she likes it or not, turning toward self-realization, facing her feelings and her actions and the consequences of those things.
So right now, Nesta does not care whether she lives or dies. If anything, she's leaning more towards the die side of things. But her body also can't stop from trying to survive. Like, it's just like a thing your body does, trying to live. And when she sees the river, she goes running to it. Quote, Nesta only cared that the river before them was clear and clean, and she was parched. She collapsed on its grassy bank, kneeling to bury her face in it. She gasped into the shock of cold, then rose, lifting water to her mouth with a cupped palm again and again, swallowing and swallowing. Even if mentally she's not there yet, fundamentally, in her body, she craves that seeking that cleansing and that clearing of sins.
The sun imagery continues as Nesta and Cassian progress on their hike. Quote, "This high up, the clouds drifted past like idle watchers, none merciful enough to offer shade against the blazing sun." Again, storm imagery, which includes clouds, are an opportunity for Nesta to remain blind to the truth, but there's nowhere to hide anymore. She can't hide from her actions, especially with Feyre just now. And so she has to face the sun, and she'll get heat stroke in the process. And I feel really bad for her, but she has to go through that.
When we're in Cassian's point of view, we get this interesting thought. And I think it's just such a great balance of what SJM is doing right now. And that's the difference between showing and telling. Sometimes it's okay to tell, and you have to know when to do it. Quote, "He'd seen her expression when he mentioned the threat of falling, and he knew going back to Velaris wouldn't save her from that look. He couldn't save her from that look either. Only Nesta could save herself from that feeling." And to me, this is a good combination of showing and telling, right? He's not telling us that she wants to kill herself. He's not saying that out loud, but he is telling us that only she can do that. And it's very masterfully done in these sections, I think.
In Cassian's point of view, before the chapter ends, he sees how Nesta is just a shell of herself. And it's gotten to the point where she's not the unrestrained, wild animal that she was, but she's tamed and broken and very unlike the woman he fell in love with. Quote, "She followed in that heavy, brimming silence, as quiet as a trailing pack horse," which makes me so sad because those animals have the worst lives ever, and they always look sad, and they make me depressed.
All right, let's take a sip while we have those fun feelings.
Yeah. Moving into chapter 49, we're still on a hike with Nesta and Cassian, and Nesta is worn down to her soul. Quote, "She wouldn't move till dawn, not even to use the bathroom. She'd rather wet herself than have to move another muscle." So this is after, like, Cassian said they can break here. And quite frankly, this is insane. This is not Nesta. Nesta is a proud person. The fact that she would not only be willing to wet herself, but be willing to wet herself in front of Cassian tells you how low she is. The normal Nesta would be mortified at the thought of that. Now, because I've been paying so much attention to the environment and what that says about Nesta's mental journey, I do have to wonder when SJM uses environmental descriptions in these chapters, is she trying to convey something about the mental journey, or is she just trying to convey to us the mountains of New Zealand that she was in? I don't know. And for context, listen to the Call Her Daddy interview. It explains it. Quote, "The wind murmured, wending between the peaks. Shadows slowly crept over the craggy sides of the mountains, the lingering sun casting their upper limits in gold, the chill deepening with each inch yielded to the rising dark."
So, I mean, I'm happy that you mentioned her interview because you can interpret the scene in two different lenses, and looking at through an author lens where you're taking into account everything the author has said is one action. You know, you can look into New Zealand, and then you can look at this with an environmental lens, especially how this is one of her biggest moments and there is safety to this wilderness and something that allows her to be vulnerable. You can analyze it more, and I'm not going to. You guys can do it. There's homework. SJM knows also that this is the biggest moment, right? This is at the very least the emotional climax of the story. And I'm even going to include that with the whole mate thing. Like, this is the moment that needs to hit. It's a big enough moment that the entire book has been literally leading to this now. So how do you not mess it up? With quotes like these. "And during the pause in motion, she was so weary she couldn't think about the ruin she'd made of herself, the ruin she'd always been. Deep down, no training, no learning about the Valkyries and their mind stilling would help. Nothing would help. It has to be fantastic writing. Like, there's no other way. It has to be real and raw and relatable. And what I love about this is that it's relatable to the right people, and the people who don't get it, don't get it. And SJM is not making this moment palatable to anyone else. This is Nesta's moment. If you get it, great. If you don't, great. But there is no in between. And I think that's what makes this moment excel for me.
I think that's a great point, because if SJM were trying to write this in a way to get people to understand who've never experienced depression, this churning self-hatred, it wouldn't work. It's not possible, says the woman who tried to get her straight brother, conservative brother, to understand her queer experience. It's not possible. I would say the same of this.
And he started her straight. I'm like, what did I do? Brother, oh, thank God, not me. Okay.
In Cassian's point of view, before the breakdown happens, he thinks to himself, quote, he knew it was coming, that storm, knew that Nesta would speak again, and when she did, he'd be ready to weather it. Cassian's convinced, and we can tell by the imagery of the storm that is being used here, that Nesta's going to go ballistic, because that's what he's accustomed to with Nesta. Mm-hmm. And it says a lot that, for better or worse, he doesn't understand the full extent of Nesta's feelings or where she is mentally. And he's going to mourn the fact that she's there and be mad at himself that he never recognized it later. But right now, it's reasonable for him to think that it's going to be a negative experience for him, that she's going to be angry and whatnot, not what she actually goes through. Because people can't understand your experience until you tell them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. And just like this description again, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I just did not have a good transition, so I'm hopping into what I was going to say. But I love this description so much because, you know, he talks about Nesta being a storm. And when you think storm, you could think about wind, you could think lightning, thunder. That's what he's prepared for. He's missed the most important part of a storm, and that's the rain. That's the AKA tears.
Such a great point.
When I say that this book was written for the people who get it and the people who don't won't, I mean quotes like these. Quote, she had been born wrong, had been born with claws and fangs, and had never been able to keep from using them, never been able to quell that part of her that roared at betrayal, that could hate and love more violently than anyone ever understood. Again, this is not meant for the people. I mean, when it's meant for everyone, right? Like anyone could read this, but this book was never written in a universal way. And to have done that in third person is also fan-fucking-tastic. Like, she did not need to do I, me, we. And maybe doing it that way would have been too much. Yeah. Maybe it needed to be third person. Maybe that was SJM being able to remove the reader a little bit from it.
And remove herself.
Yep, absolutely.
Towards the end, Nesta's spiraling. She's thinking of herself and her actions. And she once was a wolf, she once was a lioness, but now she thinks of herself, quote, as no better than a rabid dog. She had been a rabid dog with Amren and Feyre, a beast exactly like Tamlin. She hadn't even cared that she'd made it down the house stairs at last. Did it count when it was driven by fury? Did she count? Was she worth being counted? And that always gives me the chills because that's what it comes down to. She never felt like part of the group. She's never felt like anyone understands her or understands the depth of her. And if that's the case, is she even worth counting among them? And that's a really, really terrifying thought to have.
And you have to make yourself be counted. Like, you can't be worth to anyone else if you're not worth yourself. You have to decide, yep, I am worthy, and then fight and fucking claw your way out of it. Again, I'm just going into descriptions because the description of earth and nature is so beautiful. Quote, the hill Cassian had mounted ahead, and a sparkling turquoise lake spread before them. It laid slightly sunken between two peaks, as if a pair of green hands had been cupped to hold the water within. Gray stones lined its shore. You can tell that this specific spot, is a safe place. It's hands holding this cleansing lake for her. It is the mother offering this gift of a cleansing lake. And this is where she gets to break down.
The description reminded me of the description of the cauldron that Feyre sees in the mural in Tamlin's home of like two hands holding the cauldron.
Yeah.
It also gave that. But this is the beautiful natural version of the cauldron that Nesta went into. It's kind of actually beautiful that her journey is bookended with the literal cauldron and this place of healing.
I love it. All right, last chapter. Are we sipping before?
I am.
Okay, we're sipping before. We are now in chapter 50, and the tears have finally started coming. Quote, once the retching, gasping sounds came out of her, Nesta knew she could not stop. She knelt on the shore of that mountain lake and let go entirely. This hurts because SJM said in her Call Her Daddy interview that this happened to her. So it just extra hurts.
Now, there's a lot of water imagery, not just with the lake being there, but also in Nesta's experience that to me came across as that baptismal cleansing that Jack talks about a lot when there are bath scenes with her drinking the water on the hike, but now it's metaphorical. Quote, she allowed every horrible thought to hit her, wash through her, let herself see Feyre's pale, devastated face as Nesta had revealed the truth, as she'd let her own anger and pain ride her. I found the use of the anger and pain riding her to be interesting because, again, it's kind of equating her to an animal that's being ridden and controlled. And she was not in control in that moment.
I would like to point out that at this point, I was in a hotel lobby and I was crying. Quote, I close my eyes and I see her that day. So this is Nesta opening up about Feyre and all the shit that went down. Quote, I close my eyes and I see her that day she went out to hunt for the first time. I see Elaine going into the cauldron. I see her taken by it during the war. I see my father dead. And now I will see Feyre's face when I told her that the baby would kill her. These are all of her issues summed up nicely. It's like a nice little trauma thesis statement. And again, it's telling, not showing, but this has showed so much that it needed the tell.
Yeah, agreed. As Nesta is bearing her soul to Cassian and telling him of like what is truly her core, like why she hates herself and why she struggles, quote, the wind seemed to pause, the sunlight on the lake brightening. And that damn sunlight had to come back because, you know what? SJM's good at maintaining a metaphor. Yeah. And now that Nesta can finally bear the truth, that sunlight is showing up again.
Cassian holds on to Nesta and he just lets her go through it. Quote, Cassian held her on the shores of the lake until the sun set, until the moon rose, and they remained there, listening to each other's breath, as if the world had been flooded by her tears, as if they were both waiting to see what emerged once the floodwaters receded. Oh, God. It's very biblical. It's giving Noah's Ark. But more importantly, and more beautifully, I think in this, is that this isn't about reforging herself. This isn't Nesta in the blacksmith, like hammering her little self back together. This is Nesta in her own tears have caused the floodwaters. Her own tears are what's going to release her of her own sins. There's no other bath. There's no other river that's going to do it. It's only going to be Nesta alone. That's what's going to come from the floodwaters.
Yeah. I don't know if this is just a Mormon thing, but we often talk about Noah's Ark and the flooding of the world as the baptism of the world, like metaphorically. And that's essentially what Nesta is also saying, is that the world, her world, has been baptized by her tears.
Yep.
Now, Nesta's gone on this beautiful, difficult, emotional journey. Cassian's been there for her, and she's resolved to, in a lot of ways, be a better person. But that doesn't mean she's ready to communicate her emotions, because that's still hard. Yeah. And it's hard, but I think that SJM writes about it so beautifully that I wanted to read these quotes. Quote, she stroked a thumb over his cheekbone, marveling at him, the words and his beauty. Some essential piece of herself clicked into place. Some piece that whispered, try. Which is a beautiful juxtaposition to the voice inside her head that told her to train in Windhaven that she ignored.
Yep.
But now she is going to try. And, quote, despite all that brimmed in her heart, all that flowed through her body, sure and true, she merely whispered, thank you. Oh, okay. I know you love him. I know that's what you're trying to say. The restraint is beautiful too. And that's actually what I was, as an author, the craft of writing. People feel the most powerful emotions through restraint in writing. And that's what's happening here.
I mean, what's also perfect is that you have this wonderful, beautiful moment and nothing's going to be fixed and resolved perfectly. She doesn't admit her feelings for Cassian in this moment. She doesn't go into the next day saying, I forgive myself. This is truly a beginning.
Yeah.
That's all this is. This is the start of a new place. And it goes into my question here for you, Amy. How do we feel about Nesta's breakdown? Was this earned?
This is probably the easiest question we've ever asked ourselves, because the answer, from my point of view, is yes. I think there are a lot of signs of Nesta's building empathy, ability to identify with Feyre, the fact that we saw so much from Nesta's point of view about her truly caring for Feyre and being able to admit that was super duper important for this process. It's natural also, and I think very human, for you to have these really low lows after you've had a high, especially when you experience depression. At least my experience with depression is the highest highs do bring about the lowest lows because the highs feel fleeting, right? Nesta's feeling of home and safety felt fleeting because she's the one who destroys that sense of safety and brings about her own self-hatred. So I think it was very, very earned. I think, you know, this new added layer that we've identified of like Amryn representing Mama Archeron and the toxicity of that and the image of Feyre counteracting it makes it even more powerful to me than I even realized before.
Yeah, I think this was SJM's most daunting book, and I don't know if people give her enough credit for this, of I am going to write a book starting with a protagonist that not only do a lot of people hate, I'm going to make you hate her more. You think you don't like Nesta? I am going to make you despise her. I am going to make it so that every time she doesn't get up for Cassian, she hurts. You know, she already was starting at a deficit and she brings it down lower to bring us back up to then support this FMC, to support Nesta in her journey, to know that this is just the beginning, that this heals nothing. This just allows groundwork for healing. That's all this is.
Yeah.
And I don't think people know how hard that is. I think it's easy to solve. Everyone went running into battle and they survived, right? This type of emotional arc is one of the most difficult things I personally think you can write. And so when people say that there's no plot, that nothing really happens in this book, I just want to be like, do you know how fucking hard this must have been for her to write? Not just emotionally herself, but to like execute, and not just execute well, but exceed everything. I'm almost like, where's my new tattoo? I want a Silver Flames tattoo. We'll circle back to that.
I saw that moment of realization on your face.
I want it. But yeah, so I know this was the easiest question, but also I was left alone to do this question and I wanted it to be easy. So I want us to be able to wrap it up and eat after.
She was left alone because I was vomiting this morning, guys. It's fine.
Amy's tummy is gentle and we want to catch and release. Okay. So this was the make or break moment of this book. This was the moment that you would say this succeeded or didn't succeed.
Yeah.
And she knocked it out of the park. And I would like everyone to just kind of like really sit with that. If you walk away from this episode, this season, is to sit with that exact feeling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the one last thing I'll add is she did with Nesta what she's done with everyone else. She brought them really, really low.
Yep.
To bring them to a point of redemption or a point of healing or a new beginning. It follows the trajectory of all her characters, and this is her most masterful, in my view.
Yeah. Watch me looking up Silver Flames tattoos after this, and my mother hating every single one. All right, let's wrap it up.
Thanks for listening to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Join us tomorrow for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks discussion from today's chapters of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Silver Flames.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other readers find us. And of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com, and we might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or in a Patreon exclusive episode.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the handle Book Talk for Book Talk. And don't forget to join us as we keep the analysis going by subscribing to our Substack to get more insights into the romantasy and romance genres. Head to the subtextsocietyjournal.substack.com. Bye.
Amy, we were just in New York for BookCon, and did you notice that all of the New York girlies were wearing Quince?
You're so right. They were stylish, street appropriate, but also business casual.
It's amazing how I was spotting some of Quince's staple pieces on the street. I can always spot one of their Mongolian cashmeres from a mile away because it's always so soft and so nice. Quince really spends time on making sure they give you the best quality clothing they can with premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra soft denim.
Their styles make getting dressed simpler. They make me feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together with tops that start at just $30. You can't beat that for work.
Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup.
Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too.
That's QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/booktalk. Struggling to find the right metabolic wellness support, even when you're doing everything right, has been one of the most frustrating things for me in my health journey.
I've tried other metabolic wellness support providers, and I often feel rejected rather than supported by the process.
That's because Brello is focused on long-term health, longevity, and performance, not quick fixes.
Brello is designed for people who want a more sustainable approach to their metabolic wellness support. Their support helps you focus on habits, education, and structure alongside provider oversight.
Getting my GLP-1 through Brello has been so easy. They make it so effortless, and they provide all the support I need through their app.
Their app is one of a kind in my book because it allows you to track progress, manage reminders, and stay on top of renewals. And if you're like me, managing the renewals is the hardest part.
Everything is managed online, making it easier to stay consistent over time, and medications are delivered to your door. They're so transparent with their pricing with one flat monthly cost. Go to BrelloHealth.com to see if you qualify and explore their GLP-1 plans, starting at $133 per month for your first 3 months, plus access to their app, community, and wellness classes. That's BRELLO health.com.
Any information provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. It is not a substitute for professional medical consultation, diagnosis, or treatment. All patients must consult with a healthcare provider prior to the prescription or dispensing of any medication, which will be done only pursuant to a valid prescription. Compounded drug products are not FDA approved, and the FDA does not evaluate their safety, effectiveness, or quality. Patients are encouraged to discuss the risks, benefits, and appropriateness of any medications, including compounded products, with their healthcare provider before use. When I moved in with my partner is when I realized how much effort she puts into her skincare. She spends so much time and money just on what she puts on her skin. But the one thing she doesn't invest in is our bedding.
Well, that's because you're now investing in it with Boll and Branch.
From their organic cotton sheets to their breathable pillows and comforters, Boll and Branch makes their bedding with ultra clean materials that are gentle on the skin and free from harsh chemicals.
Boll and Branch really feels like my first grown-up sheets. And you can really feel the difference with their signature sheet sets. Remember, these sheets are touching you for up to 8 hours every single night. You're going to want to have the best sheets possible. Have you noticed that the pockets of the fitted sheets are perfect for forming around the mattress?
This is the first set of sheets that I haven't had to help my partner put them on the bed because the pockets are too small. They are so easy to get on the bed.
These are honestly the first pair of sheets that I have that I don't wake up with my sheets halfway wrapped around me. They are durable, they are soft, and the longer you use them, the softer they become.
Upgrade your sleep with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off your first order plus free shipping at bollandbranch.com/booktalk with code BOOKTALK, BOOKTALK.
That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/BOOKTALK, and use code BOOKTALK to unlock 15% off. Exclusions apply.
Meet the new iSims, the single talent acquisition platform that's fully future-ready. It works wherever and however you hire, with insights no one else offers. One solution that fits seamlessly into your existing tech stack, which is why IT and HR leaders trust it. With the best of enterprise-grade software and AI, iSims helps you identify and secure the right talent faster. iSims, powering exceptional hiring. Learn more at isims.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.